you see at the back, and man walks onto the pitch. He produces a pipette of water. He puts that drop of water in the center spot. He leaves. No one takes much of notice. But this water, this drop of water is magical. It tends to grow exponential. It doubles every minute, like technology does when it doubles in power every minute, every year or so. So it means that after a minute, it's a 1 drop of water. After second minute, it's a 2 drop of water. After 3 minutes, it's a 4 drop of water. In the 4th minute, it's an 8 drop of water. So you get a picture. So I have a question to you. How long do you think we have before this stadium is completely full and you draw right at the seat, at the top? So I'll give you 3 options for you to choose for this answer. So one option would be that it will take 1 month to get this stadium filled with water. The second option would be 1 week, and then the final option would be, third option would be 1 hour. So by show of hands, who thinks that to fill this water with a drop of water, the full stadium, it will take 1 month? Okay. The second option, it'll take a week. Who thinks that it'll take a week to fill the stadium with water? Okay. And then the final option, who thinks that it'll take 1 hour to get this stadium filled? Wow, that's amazing. So actually, you guys get it right. It's actually it's less than an hour, and it's 49 minutes. But the real surprise is that at 45 minutes later, the stadium is still 94% empty. That's right, 4 minutes to go, and you look down, see a dangerous situation developing, and you're still failing to do something to save yourself. And that happens with a lot, time and time and again with senior business executives and different industries, retail, publishing, music, you name it, when they think that they have plenty of time to react, but they actually don't. They don't have time, luxury of time to react. This is just a sort of impact of exponential technologies. So the idea I'm talking about is actually not new. It's already been observed in the semiconductor industry when Gordon Moore, who is the founder of Intel, in 1965 he predicted that computing power of hardware will double every 2 years, which actually turned out to be true. And it doesn't end there as well, so we see exponential improvement in different other fields. So we see that number of users, internet, mobile, grown exponentially over the last 20 years. We also see that computing costs and storage costs have gone down dramatically to few cents. The smartphone now replaces a function of 12 different electronic devices. So, and the speed of technology adoption is actually accelerating. So for telephone, it took more than 100 years to reach 1 billion users. With a smartphone and with Facebook, it took 8 years. And now with the messaging apps like WhatsApp or Snapchat, we see that the adoption is actually much shorter. So what that means, it presents massive opportunity for all of us. If you try to adapt to this new technology paradigm, you can come out as a winner. And exponential times call for exponential thinking. German Gref, chairman of Sberbank, who I'm sure you all know, he said that countries who are able to adapt to the new technology paradigm will come out as winners, and those who resist the change, it could be very dangerous, and it could be the same situation with stadium, where you can be drawn very quickly. So since we live in exponential time, I'm going to talk about multiple disruptive forces which are shaping the way society operates now. I'm going to switch, so I'm going to come back to this slide later, not to do so before. So there are 4 disruptive forces which is happening now. So two disruptive forces happening now, and they operated in full steam. One of them is unbundling of services. The other one is collaborative economy age. And then two other disruptive forces, connected ecosystem and autonomous world age, which are around the corner and knocking in our door. So we saw on slides earlier that cost of technology have gone down significantly. So what do you think? What would be the major implications of for us as entrepreneur? And also, it's a very good news for startups. What are major implications of cost of technology actually going down? Right now, yeah. So it presents. We're talking about massive opportunity, like reach billion user. It can happen very quickly. Cost of technology going down. For entrepreneur, why it's important and why it's such a massive help now for entrepreneur.
Because the business is scalable very fast.
Yeah.
It's scalable within hours, weeks, months.
Yeah. Very good. And also, you're right. You know, the scalability of the business happens much faster now. And we see examples where startups actually reach $1 billion valuation within 2 years. So with the cost of technology going down, it's cheaper than ever to launch internet startup. So if 2000 it cost $5 million to build a startup, now it costs a couple of thousands. And this is a massive help for entrepreneur. So on this slide, you see the picture of founder of Assembly. It's a London-based startup. They develop algorithm for news summarization, which is based on latest advancement in artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. And he sold his startup to Yahoo for $30 million. But what's interesting, could you guess how old was he when he raised his first VC money?
16, 14.
Yeah, he was 15. He was 15 years old. And what's interesting that I have a friend who we studied together at London Business School. He has a wealth of experience. He worked for top tier consulting firms, etc. And he worked for him as a chief operational officer. He is about my age. So it's a bit of challenge to work for someone who is 10 years younger than you or more. And, but this is the reality. So he doesn't need to get an MBA. He doesn't need even to finish the school to actually create startup and do something on such disruptive scale at such a young age. Let me explain what I mean when I say about unbundling of services. So bundling, it's basically when for example, bank provide you package of services, and by providing you package of services, they have ability to cross-subsidize one service with another. So for example, bank provide you current checking account for free, but at the same time they can overcharge you for different other banking services which you not necessarily using. So for example, let's say international money transfer. They're charging you for 5-10% of the amount you want to transfer. And this is how they actually make their money. They trick you thinking that actually the current checking account that they providing you is free, but actually not. So they take in money, different fees from different services. And what is happening now, and this is a website of European bank called HSBC, and with the cost of technology going down, there is a lot of startup being created to provide a solution to solve this problem. And they take specific banking service, for example, international money transfer, and they provide it 10 times better on different dimensions, on cost, on user experience, on the speed. So for example, international money transfer, it's being attacked currently by a whole host of startups. And one of the most successful one is a startup called TransferWise. It's an Estonian-based startup. It's actually not very far from you guys. And they raised over 100 million in funding. They valued it over $1 billion. And what they do, they use P2P model, which actually means that the money doesn't cross the border. And they provide this service 10 times cheaper. So now you pay not 5%, you pay 0.5%. Because money doesn't cross the border, the speed of transfer is instantaneous. User experience, they completely nail the user experience. It's very gamified, it's very interesting. So this is what I call unbundling of the services. And this concerns not only fintech, where we actually focus on, I'm going to talk about it later, but also concerns every other imaginable industry. It concerns car, logistics, energy, media, healthcare, etc. So with the startups has a chance to actually make the greater good for the customer by actually, punishing all those banks. So the second disruptive force I'm going to talk about is the sharing collaborative economy. So sharing economy is a model where the access and ownership of the assets shared between people and corporations. And it happens in different sectors like transport, food, space, finance, etc. So let's use, for example, transport industry. What do you think would be the major implication of the car sharing for the car makers? What do you think? What would be the effect of car sharing as a concept for the car makers? Sorry?
Probably drop the amount of cars each year.
Right on the spot. Yeah, you're right. Spot on. So, exactly. So one shared car is actually replace the need for 9 cars. So basically, with the and that hits the top line. That hits their sales. So for one shared car, they lose sales of $270,000. And that not only concerns the car makers, but also like car financing, parking, dealer services, etc. So it all concerns all the adjacent industries that around car making. So what do you think would be the likeliest response for the car makers to actually get control of the situation?
Autonomous cars.
Might be, yeah. And they're actually doing it, exactly. So there is a rush of car makers doing it.
They try to increase the turnover rate of cars, and it changed dramatically in the last decades.
Yeah.
I just know in Germany, I think it's in Germany, it's 7 years or something. If you compare it to 20 years ago, it's very so you buy more.
Yeah, they finding out a solution to
obviously they invest
offset.
time in car sharing a lot themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So car sharing, exactly. And this is actually what I wanted to show on this slide, that they actually invest in a lot in car sharing. So basically what happened is that if in the traditional sense, the relationship between the end consumer and car makers, the car makers actually was sort of owning the customer. Now they're losing control. Now between the car maker and between the consumer, there is suddenly a car sharing platform now sits between them, and now they lost control of the customer. So how they regain the control? They start investing in the car sharing platform. They start providing them fleet of cars, because now it's actually a car sharing platform decides which car the customer will use for driving. So you see, like Volkswagen recently invested in here, General Motors, $500 million in Lyft, Toyota, Uber, even Apple, they made $1 billion investment in taxi service in China. So it's a car sharing platform now in a very good, strong position. The collaborative economy has a massive disruption, not only for the businesses, but also it affects the way people work. And there is a new relatively term called gig economy. And gig economy, when I say gig economy, it's basically where people has a flexibility to work as many hours as they want without any contractual commitments. And that became possible with the proliferation of different on-demand startups, like, for example, Deliveroo. We involved in Deliveroo not directly through the venture fund that we invested in. And this company is one of the successful success story now in Europe. And they provide food delivery to the restaurants, to the premium end restaurants. And basically, I sort of randomly bumped into this person who was sort of on the way back home. His name is Andrey, he's from Denmark, he studied art. He worked evening shifts 4 hours a day, and that allows him to pay his living cost. And he loves cycling. So what we see that there is emergence of on-demand workers. People who actually work flexibly and they can do their own passion or whatever. And it's actually becoming very trendy now in London. Everyone wants to work for Deliveroo, for example. And especially it's very popular among students. And the share of income from gig economy is actually increasing. And in the US now it's 1% of total income in US employment, and it's set to grow. And also it's a nice additional source of income now from platforms like labor platforms like Uber or TaskRabbit, or capital platform like Airbnb or eBay. Obviously, there are some downside to that with on-demand workers. It's not that like rosy picture. With on-demand workers, the problem is the security of those workers, right? So you give them flexibility, they provide you flexibility, but at the same time, what's happening now, they're trying to shift their business risk to the on-demand workers by making they pay variable, which means that they only pay on as many orders they actually deliver. And this is sort of could be dangerous for those on-demand workers, because those startups, they become powerful corporations, and the bargaining power suddenly sort of shift into their favor, and they can, sort of shift all their business risks to actually on-demand workers. So there are some downsides to that. So we talked about sort of what is happening now, what is happening, and it's actually already happening, but it's going to more and more shape the way future will look like. And one of the disruptive forces is connected ecosystem. And there are two major connected ecosystems. One of them is a connected car, and another one is connected home. And what it basically means that products are no longer viewed as a single in purpose. They started being embedded in networks and crosses different boundaries. So you see, for example, with car, there is also infotainment in a connected car. There is also car insurance. There is also car sharing. So, and what that basically means that the boundaries between different industries, they doesn't matter anymore. They're all blurring. So, for example, half of the insurance companies, and we're actually looking at insurance space a lot, half of the insurance companies now they form a partnership outside of the industry. And I want to ask you, why, and the insurance company, they form partnership with companies like car makers, they form partnership with companies like utility, and etc. Why on earth the insurance company will start forming partnership with car makers?
Because OnTouch collects data about driving style and can switch costs.
Amazing. It's we talk about the partnership, right? When the car makers establishing partnership with car sharing platform. And when you hear about partnership, you suddenly realize that the party who wants this partnership is actually in danger, right? So similar dynamic, so insurance companies in danger now because they no longer, first of all, control the customer, and second of all, they whole business is based on underwriting the risk, data. So they underwrite the risk, price risk correctly, and the connected cars, they have all the data, real-time data about driving behavior of the car. So basically now they're rushing to start establishing partnerships with these companies because they have the access suddenly to data. And that means that actually no one is safe now. So there isn't like a distinction between industries. And then I ask you another question. Who will be the, I guess that's already vivid, right? So with the insurance companies, the threat obviously is the car makers will start suddenly doing insurance, right? And we will see in another slide. But I also want to ask you, for example, there is a new market which is on-demand health. Who do you think are the best positioned to deliver on-demand health now?
Apple.
Google. Yeah, Google is also. They have data, right? And the whole health is all about data. and they it's a it's a technology company, and for them they are serious threat to the pharma companies in terms of these, because for pharma companies there is their core competence is drug discovery, and Google through artificial intelligence can actually shorten drug discovery. So Google is a serious threat to pharma companies, but for on-demand health there is another company. Who could be else?
Some other things, please.
Yeah, also data, right? So it's a quantified data about yourself. But on-demand health. On-demand health, when I say on-demand health, that means that the health is delivered to you on demand, right? It means that you want, I don't know, vaccination. You want to sort of short of vaccination to prevent the flu. So you want someone who can actually come and inject. What company will actually be the most serious threat to hospital chains on demand?
Delivery club.
Potentially, delivery club, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Delivery club, they start doing the own food delivery, right? So they have a fleet of drivers, right? They have a network of drivers, and this is important. And you're right. So it could be, yeah. So now, I use another, I use Uber, right? Because they have a network of drivers, a network of cars, and they also have large customer base. So the third element, they need to bring a just skilled set of workers, right? Like nurses, etc. And they can be suddenly very interesting value proposition to the customer, because no one like major hospital chain or pharma companies would ever imagine that Uber Health could be a serious threat. And this is sort of all the sort of implication of the connected car. So so this is the final disruptive force I want to talk about is artificial intelligence, autonomous old age. So what are the events currently you see on the slide?
Chess and Go.
Exactly. And why do you think that the Go, AlphaGo, when it won the champion of the game Go just in March, why do you think it's advancement in AI?
I know it because I wrote an article on it, because I'm pretty interested in this stuff.
Yeah.
It's used AlphaGo.
Yeah.
It uses DeepMind, deep learning neural net, which is connected to technologies applied in Google.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool because it thinks like a bit of like human mind thinks.
Yeah, you're right, absolutely. That's amazing. For example, when Deep won the Garry Kasparov, it was all about artificial narrow intelligence. It's when algorithm is pre-programmed to play only chess. So first of all, you couldn't use this algorithm for anything else. The second major drawback, it cannot learn. So you can only pre-program him for finite number of, computations around different possibilities in the chess game. With AlphaGo, it's completely different game. First of all, this algorithm is like newborn baby. It's not pre-programmed. So it's artificial general intelligence. So it can not only be applicable to only chess. It can do different other stuff. So it can play different games. And the second, it can learn. So there is a new paradigm in artificial intelligence, which is called reinforcement learning. So basically, in the first game, it loses. It's sort of poorly played. But after a game, another game, it starts improving. It starts improving performance. So after 100 games, it's expert. After 1,000 games, it can be the champion in the Go. So what that actually means, this algorithm could be applied to whole other different things. So it's a learning. It's like a biological organism. It's not fixed. It's always learning. So I have a question to audience again. What type of business disruption we can expect from advancement in AI?
Normal service centers with quick monitoring calls
Yeah, you're right. No stupid job anymore. No manual like tedious task. Exactly. People will be free up from stuff that they don't like.
I think all these advancements in artificial intelligence will shut down the call centers and all the really intelligent jobs. It will mostly disrupt the planet. So where do we put all these people who are now?
No, yeah, there is always this dilemma, and I think that it's not only happening. It's new. It actually happened when, for example, was industrial revolution, right? So people were sort of job already defined.
They were rebelling against the machines. It was, I don't know how many people lived on the planet at that time. But now it's 7 billion, and probably one of them is going to be
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's why when I remember to the stadium, right, to the German bit, when he's saying it's a plastic this is serious stuff, right? So it's how much value we can actually add in the global value chain, right? So will be some winners, some losers, right? And then always with all disruption, with all these continuities, there are those who actually profit from that and those who actually lose, right?
There is a nice picture about business disruption, which is you couldn't expect before. It's about truck drivers in America. In the United States, especially in states like Missouri, many people work as truck drivers, and they have never done anything else professionally. And today there is a number of trucks which are piloted by AI. And it will change the whole logistics, but it's not only about salaries of people who drive trucks, but it's also about a whole economy around that, because there are cafes, there are markets where they buy food, etc., etc., etc. And it all can change in 10 years from top to bottom.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it'll be completely redefining of the how the industry operates. I want to use the example. We talk about car a lot, right? So I want to use again the example with car. Self-driving cars, right? That could be also like serious implications. When there will be self-driving cars, then there will be no job for drivers. But also, with the self-driving cars, the cost of delivery will go down to zero. So that would mean that on-demand delivery of anything that become like something that we would normally expect. And also, we talk about insurance as well. You insure that a car will break or be accident. With a driverless car, then there is a whole different thinking, right? So car will never break. There is an accident because it's a pre-program. So then suddenly a risk shift from the driver to the car manufacturer. So then this insurance is already embedded in the car manufacturer. So insurance, in the long run, I think this industry could completely disappear. Not completely, but maybe that vertical, like car insurance. Will be new type of insurance, like cyber insurance, something like that. But it will be, and this will be like a cascade of things, right? So it will be one thing will lead to another, etc. So I want to quickly go through who we are. The White Capital, we're a London-based venture capital firm, founded 3 years ago. We invest in early-stage technology company. We also invest in venture funds. I'll talk about it later. So our focus, we invest for verticals, fintech. I talk about fintech, so we really believe our thesis around unbundling of the bank. So be bank will die by thousands of cuts, and it's massive market. We also invest in the logistics tech, and with the proliferation of on-demand startup, logistics will be enabler for this on-demand startup succeed. The third vertical is enterprise workflow. We believe in the new concept of work. We completely new sort of, we see with the gig economy on demand workers, it's already happening. And also we invest in, we invest in 12 companies. One of the company that we actually have success exiting this investment, it's called Collectrium, which is a software we developed to track the inventory, art inventory for collectors. So this portfolio company developing this technology, and one of the largest auction houses in the world called Christie's. They were doing it themselves. They were doing it in-house, but then they realized that this company is much ahead of them. So they decided to buy them out. So they buy our portfolio company about a year ago, something like that. So it's one of the successful exits in sort of art tech. And also, when I said that we invest in venture funds, we also invested in emerging London-based venture funds. And we see that Europe is actually catching up with the US in terms of the VC funding and in terms of the talent, engineering talent, and entrepreneurial talent. And so that means that actually we have extended portfolio of companies that we invested through these venture funds. So we talk about the Liberus, which we invested through London-based venture funds. So there are three characteristics we look at entrepreneurs when we meet them. The first one is a big market with a huge customer pain. So we were looking for a startup which could be like 100 million business or even billion, and you can only do it when it's a big market. And also the customer pain must be so huge because it's important. You either push or you pull, so it's better getting pulled by the market, because then it results in reduced customer acquisition costs. So the second characteristic is a fintech entrepreneur and A-class team. There is a book written by Mikhail, which is called Flow. So we believe that when people are authentic, they don't exert any energy whatsoever to actually do some stuff. So when they true themselves and when they do stuff, they laugh. And when you, for example, see the startup and you see entrepreneur and you say, yeah, this person, I can only see him doing this startup and nothing else. And when an entrepreneur is authentic, then he can do anything. And also you need to attract A-class team, and the A-class team can only come if it's a big market, if it's a big ambition. So it's these 2 points are they interrelated. And the last one is a very competitive advantage. There has to be some secret sauce behind your startup. There has to be some insight that you only know. No one else in the room knows this, or in the world, but only you. And you can win the market. So there has to be something that sort of can be defensible for your business. So I conclude my presentation, and I'd like to open the floor for questions.
Maybe it's a little bit philosophical, but you as a venture investor, venture fund, you are always focused on future, and you are focused on exponential growth. And in that case, classical risk management stops working, because you are living in unpredictable future with unpredictable risks and many negative black swans, as Muslims said. And how do you cope with it? And do you do anything in advance to prevent some risks with this much impact? Two examples. You've been talking very much about car sharing and sharing economy. Just 2 examples from a near past. Delimobil in Moscow, they had that big hype when some guy was taking that car sharing service, and he had a car crash, and he discovered that he wasn't covered by insurance, and the Delimobil didn't say it in advance. So now he owns $500,000 rubles paid because he was the one who had this car crash. And the second one about BlaBlaCar, when suddenly they got drivers had problems when his passenger is, having any legal stuff with them and is stopped by police, and driver becomes, he has to do, he becomes responsible, yes. And they couldn't think in advance about these risks, and they are so big for business, and they would ruin business.
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Well, let me start first that venture investment is risky in the first place, right? So you invest in something which is 3-5 people in the garage, has a lot of ambitions, working on something which it hasn't yet proven. It may have proven. You try to invest in startup which has, which de-risk themselves for different stages, approve again tractions, etc. So, but in general, venture investment is risky. So when you invest, and normally there is a power law, which basically means that in whole the universe of the funds, there are some funds which accumulate disproportionate amount of profits. The same happens also with the way they invest in portfolio companies. So they invest, let's say, so basically what venture funds, the main goal for them is to find billion-dollar technology company, right? And that billion-dollar technology company, if they find it, they already own the whole fund, right? And if they find, it's like a baseball, right? It's like if you hit 3 runs, you are a good player. If you hit 4 runs, you are superstar. But you need to hit it from out of 10 10 balls, right? So the similar dynamic. So you invest 15 companies. If you find 3, big companies, which can become startup, which can become big companies, you can return 3 times of the capital that invested, right? So this is the sort of mathematics behind it, right? So that means that when you invest in 15 companies, you immediately assume that will be half of the company potentially could go nowhere, right? So first of all, it's a very risky. So there are, I guess, controllable risk and uncontrollable risk. Controllable risk, you can sort of mitigate that through your discipline when you invest in. So you look at all the criteria that I just listed. Like you look for the big market with a huge customer pain. You look for the authentic entrepreneur, fair competitive advantage. So, and you need to be disciplined that the startup actually ticks all these boxes. And that's how you, in a way, mitigate this risk. The risk with the third party, like you described, it's something which is hard to control. And obviously, you just need to, in the due diligence, you need to sort of specify all those risks and potentially, again, develop the action plan. When this happens, what you're going to do with this risk? What sort of going to be mitigating actions? I guess this is only what you can do. I hope that answers it. Yeah.
When you invest in a company, how much control stays with the original entrepreneur? Do you take over management or?
No, it's venture fund is not private equity fund, right? So when venture fund invests, they normally takes from 10 to 12 to 20% ownership of the company. And they take that ownership, they need to, so basically when they invest that amount which actually will help them to achieve the next milestone. So because when you invest in a startup, you expect that there will be multiple rounds of financing. It will be, let's say, 4 or 5 rounds of financing. So when you invest, especially in Nordic, you look at the next milestones, right? So you're not looking like company 10 years ahead. So you look at what company needs to do in order to be able to raise the next round of funding, right? So they need to achieve all the milestones. So when they invest, they hold 10-20% ownership. And private equity, take over control of the management when they invest in mature companies, when it's predictable cash flows, they can do leverage buyout or whatever. So with the VC investing, it's normally sort of that state. It's maybe not enough to control the entrepreneur, but you can do it through different terms, like shareholder agreement, where you stipulate what sort of like protective provisions, what the entrepreneur cannot do without your consent. This is how you sort of mitigate the risk where the entrepreneur starts doing something outside of the control. And also you can do board seats when investor sits on the board and take participation, strategic action. But it's always hands-off, right? So you know it's entrepreneur's baby, and sometimes you can do more harm than actually. There is actually even notion that when the CEO even doesn't touch the entrepreneur, he already created that.
What do you think about the current development in Finland with crowdfunding of fintech startups? I mean, now with Andrey and Lamoda, crowdfunding almost became a competitor to VCs. So I think it's quite interesting because I mean, crowdfunding £1 or £2 million without even having a product to show in an app-based world, or at least in a media-based world. It's interesting because that's actually a VC business. So how do you see that?
It's a very interesting question, topic, because for entrepreneur, whenever they take money from someone else, from an institution, it already has some obligation for the entrepreneur. Because an entrepreneur, you're not running the company already by himself. He has some obligation in terms of the reporting, in terms of the stuff. So because the investor also has the fiduciary duty to venture capital, they have fiduciary duty to their limited partners who gave them money, right? So they also need to be accountable to them. So there is a chain of accountability. So whenever the entrepreneur takes the money from someone, there is always the cost of actually complying with the invested money. So the different alternative platform can actually be an interesting source for the entrepreneur, because for entrepreneur, if he bootstrap the whole company without any VC funding, he maintains larger ownership, right? And he actually has control. He can, with his own data, he can do what he wants to do with the startup. So it can actually be an interesting proposition for them, not to take any money and use different alternatives. What I can tell is actually that sometimes crowdfunding also helps entrepreneur with the marketing. So, for example, in case of Lamoda, they did the most fastest campaign on the crowdfunding. I actually wanted to participate. I wanted to invest in Lamoda through this crowdfunding platform. We invested actually to them through our venture funds directly, so it was a VC investment. But also I wanted to do my personal investment through crowdfunding. And I couldn't do it because I was half a minute late. So they announced the campaign at let's say 1 o'clock, and they closed the campaign within 96 seconds. But actually, it was like on the second or third minute, I wanted to put money, but actually couldn't. So, and that's amazing for when it has such a massive interest from retail investors, because it helps a lot in terms of the marketing. They're obviously quite smart and tricky about the scarcity. They created that scarcity when they, you want something and it's not there. You really, and then you want this even more. So I guess, I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, for me, the change is just very interesting from the product, from crowdfunding to product to crowdfunding to companies that are not existing.
There is a danger though with the crowdfunding, well, not danger, but when, for example, you take VC money, and then after that you do crowdfunding, there is a signaling, right? So you took the money from a credible investor and then you take the money from retail, right? So that means that either your institutional investor doesn't follow you for long. That means that they probably don't trust you in your business model. That signals other investors that actually maybe your business model is not doing. So when they undertake this route, that immediately means that other investors will start wondering, I think this business model will not doing well, because with a venture there is a lot of information asymmetry. You don't know, what's inside the company.
Your opinion as an investor about cryptocurrencies and distributed contracts, like Ethereum and technologies like this. Do you invest? And if you do not, why?
First of all, this is an amazing technology and that they will have profound effect. I actually should have mentioned this as one of the traffic flow because the blockchain has a lot of potential, especially with the loss of trust in different central authorities. We haven't invested. We do have investment again through venture funds in sort of exchange for alternative currencies like Bitcoin. We haven't invested specifically in sort of blockchain, but we follow in this space, and I think that could have significant profound impact on the way finance is working. Guys, any more questions?
Stop here and ask more questions because we have a break now.
Okay.
Yeah? Would it be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much